With the Doctor captured by both masters and Bill converted to a Cyberman, the end draws near as the people in the ship need his help. Forced to make one last stand, the Doctor pleads for Missy to make her final stand too. Everything is on the line as the Doctor risks it all to save the few lives left. The Doctor falls today on Voices from the Vortex.
Broadcast amplitude at maximum capacity. Transmitting through time and space in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex reviews Doctor Who, Series 10, Episode 12, The Doctor Falls. And here we are at last. Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Vortex. My name is Matt.
And my given name is Taylor.
But our chosen names, our
Yes.
Time Lord names, are quite different. I'm the Bachelor.
Yes, and I'm the Associate. And
Together, we're
if you-
Wild Stallions.
Two wild and crazy guys. If you're curious
Guys.
about what the heck we're talking about, stay tuned on this podcast channel, this YouTube channel, or if you're listening on iTunes, for some new scripted episodes coming up.
That's right. Voices from the Vortex, the Lost Season, debuts just a week from this episode. So get ready, guys, because every podcast has a beginning, and ours certainly took long enough to get here. So
That's right.
hey,
Enough about
guys,
that.
here we are. We're at the last episode, and what an episode!
Indeed.
We are at the Doctor Falls. God, seriously, I'm so excited to talk about this. There's so much to talk about. Stephen Moffat
Yes.
has written his final finale. Can't do that to the English language, but I just did. And all right, well, let's jump right into it. The Doctor falls, and I'm just going to start with the most obvious thing that we had. We had the return of the Cybermen. It didn't go where I thought it was. We had the return of the Cybermen. The Mondasian Cybermen, in fact. A
Yes.
genesis of the Mondasian Cybermen, as one may or may not call it, if one was or was not known as the Master.
Yeah, and I really, they kind of were more prevalent in the first. I mean, there were lots of Cybermen in this episode. However, the story seemed to shift more to the sort of the emotional stuff with the characters.
Right.
Bill dealing with her problem being a Cyberman, and then the Doctor and Missy's relationship, and and John Sim was there as sort of as a nice reminder of like just what a jerk the Master used to be.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a really good. First of all, it was a really good actor showcase of just all those people all together. Really good. So,
This was
It
definitely a
flowed well.
character piece.
yes.
Yeah, no, this was absolutely a character piece. This is one of those episodes that we're going to talk deeply about the characters and how they've changed, but that's all because Moffat doesn't like to write big spectacle as much as he likes to write character pieces with big spectacle just kind of happening around them. And that's
Right.
a lot of this episode was that. We've got the Cybermen, we've got a captured Doctor in the beginning, the Cybermen attacking, both Masters and Nardole and the ship flying through the, up the decks to a slower time, and the Doctor, of course, coming along thanks to Bill, who, even though she's a Cyberman, she's still protecting the Doctor. She's still fighting for the Doctor.
Yeah.
I before we get into talking about Bill, couple of things I wanted to mention, or just to talk about here. First things first, head laser. They have a head laser. The Mondasian Cybermen that we've seen in the 10th Planet had a giant flashlight that went and killed
Right,
people.
right.
But the head laser was so cool.
Oh yeah.
They should always have a head laser.
Yeah. Did they used to shoot? Did the ones like the Russell T Davies era, and sort of the later Moffat area. Didn't they shoot out of the chest, or am I thinking of something
No,
else?
their arms. They had.
It was just all the arm. Okay, yeah. Well,
right.
so I liked the laser, sort of bringing that back, and yeah, that was really neat.
The design of them were really. I thought they were beautiful. I really did. I love that sort of retro astronaut look to them. I thought that was really cool.
And we talked a lot about that last week, and how, you know, the it's a really old, really cheesy design, but yet they made it so scary. And in this one, it's still it's not distracting. It's still like really, it fits with the story and with everything that it was. So yeah, the Cyberman. This is a great Cyberman story, even though they weren't really that prevalent, but it was
right.
They were scary. That was, and the thing that I think that was the most scary for me was, and the most I wouldn't say scary, but the most stakes raising was that you had the time difference on the ship. So the Cybermen are upgrading themselves at a much faster rate than the Doctor and the Masters and all. They're able to keep up with that. They can't even go to the top of back just to the TARDIS, because he says, you know, they're going to have thousands of years to figure out how to stop us. And it's just like,
right.
That was great. That was a very, very good plot device. I thought that they used really well.
Well, and you know, it's interesting, yeah, because they do have all those different Cybermen designs. So it's interesting to think that had they been given time, the Cybermen naturally would have evolved into those forms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Mondasian Cybermen were not the Cybermen from Pete's World in Season 2, so they should never have looked like that. They should instead have looked like the Cybermen we would have seen, say, during the 4th Doctor or the 5th Doctor's time. But that they would upgrade themselves to a different, that's a more battle-ready design, makes sense. And then, of course, further evolve into the Neil Gaiman Cybermen, which I thought was really interesting. So it was kind of cool to see all the different Cybermen there. We haven't really seen that since, not for Cybermen, but since Moffat wrote Asylum of the Daleks, and we had all the different Daleks there.
Oh, yeah.
Different types.
Yeah.
And it's Moffat loves having all those moments. You know, with all the generations of a villain. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool too, and there were a lot of little nods to Russell T Davies, and I liked, even though it was kind of odd you're right, to see them. You know, you kind of saw, you know, you saw the old classic ones, and then I wish there'd been some more of those, you know, Baker and some of the other, how they looked. But then you had the Russell T Davies ones were in there, where they're a little broader, you know, and then you're right, the Neil Gaiman ones. So that was really cool to see. They had all those costumes lying around, I guess, and they pulled them out. Yeah, throw this on. We need more Cybermen.
It could be they're cleaning house, getting ready for a new production crew, and they're like, get rid of the old Cybermen costumes. What if we wrote an episode with them all in there? That's brilliant.
Oh, brilliant.
In addition to this, in addition to the episode, we also got the two Masters, which, oh man, seriously, that was more fun than anything else I've seen Missy or the Master in. Period.
Yeah, it could have been a big mistake. Like, it could have not worked at all, and Moffat really wrote it so well, and it worked. It was hilarious, and it was captivating, and it was exactly how they would act with each other. We've seen the Doctor interact with himself so many times, and he's usually arguing with himself, and he doesn't, you know, because he thinks he's so great. But the Masters, they didn't really argue. They played off of each other so well because of the personalities, and so it turned out to just be really, really great.
Well, and I love that they had that they both think exactly alike. So they had that when they got on the ship with Nardole, and you know, the Doctor's dead. He told me he always hated you. And then the other one gets on, the Doctor's dead. He told me he was no, we've already done that already. You know?
Yeah, that was a great bit. That was really good. It just reminds you, hey, it's the same person.
Right. But it brings up the same questions that we always have, which is, so how can these two be here at the same time and not remember it, you know?
Right.
But again, it's a Moffat trick.
Mm-hmm.
he wrote that for the 50th anniversary, saying, no, when doctors are together, time, you can't retain it. Time can't hold on to that. So your timelines are out of sync. So you're going to forget.
Except when your former self throws you up against the wall and tells you, "Don't forget to carry another dematerialization circuit." He'll remember that.
Well, and of course we see the master turning on Missy when she decides that she's going to stay, and but that's only after she turned on him. And because she gets it, she's like, this is how it happens. This is how I regenerate. So she stabs him because she can't help herself. And he kills her because he can't help himself. Yeah,
that was a really interesting thing. And we talked a lot about the retaining of the memories. And, I don't think John Sim, knew. I mean, maybe the two of them could have worked it out. If she knows that he was the one before, she thinks, she says she's a little fuzzy on it all. Well, that's kind of a big clue. Like, if you don't remember turning into him, maybe it was during this time where you guys aren't going to remember any of this.
Right.
And so that should have been a big clue for all of us. Also that we wanted to see it anyway.
Well, yeah, so for you and me, who are continuity nerds, we don't get to see the regeneration.
Yeah, well, and that's okay. I can assume what happened. And I really loved John Sim going down the elevator laughing. That was brilliant. That was really good. That's sort of the last thing we see of him is that. I really liked that moment.
Well, and it's sort of the anti-Doctor, because we see all the Doctor's regenerations. We never see the Master's regenerations.
Well, you're right.
It was rare. It was in Utopia, we saw Yana to the John Sim because we had to see that. We never see the regenerations of the Master. So he's sort of like, that's the point, is you don't want to see it. He's the anti-Doctor.
Well, and you didn't want to see it because you didn't want to know who the next Master was. It would be kind of a surprise, or of who the character was. So yeah, you don't see Anthony Ainley turn into Dr. Giannis because then when we see Dr. Giannis, obviously, well, you obviously didn't see it because there was 20 years in there, but
well.
You don't want to see that kind of thing because the Master is one of those characters that pops up all the time as sort of surprise, it's me, yeah.
Right, but then also, conversely to that, he didn't have any more regenerations left. He had stolen that body, and then we saw in the 8th Doctor movie that he was destroyed and turned into a gel.
Oh, that's right, I
taken
forgot
back
about
to Gallifrey, and then he takes over another host who gets eaten by the TARDIS. So you wouldn't have seen that regeneration. But this brings up a really good point, and I know you and I have had a couple of discussions about this. When exactly does the Doctor first start to regenerate?
Well, yeah.
What causes that?
That was one of my main questions because I kept waiting for the moment that I was like, oh, that's okay, he's going to need to regenerate now. And I didn't for some reason, I didn't catch it the first time. And so, I went back and watched it a second time. Because there's a moment in the woods where he's walking not the woods, but in the field there with Bill, and his hand kind of glows a little bit, and he's like, oh, no, okay, I got it, pull it together. And I was like, wait, what made him have to do that in the first place? So I watched back, and it's in the scene where they're on the rooftop. He gets cyber hugged by one of the Cybermen, and it's just electric, shocks going all over him. And I'm assuming that must have been it. That's the thing. To sort of kick it off, to make him have to get started with that.
Well, and that makes a sort of sense. That's because then the whole cold open for this episode was Bill, as the Cybermen flying the Doctor up into the other level,
right,
and holding him, as he's lying in her arms. So the fact that it would happen, that was a part of it. That he gets so hurt. And she takes him, to the next level. But of course, he's going to regenerate.
Well,
so
But the one thing that was interesting to me is then right after that, the little title card comes up. It says 2 weeks later, and Bill wakes up in the barn, and it's been 2 weeks, and we never know really how long David Tennant held in his regeneration. We knew it was for a long time. but we never really knew how long. So it's like, oh, okay, so the doctor's been holding this in for 2 weeks. Then, if that was the cause, then he's been holding it in for 2 weeks up until the point where he gets into the snow and goes, hulks out.
I liked his no when he was in the TARDIS, because it's just so it's like, no!
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. Well, and then we get all those regeneration quotes. So kind of fast forwarding, right? We get where he's dead. He gets shot in the chest by the head laser. That's super cool. And he's not gonna come back. That's
right.
it. And then of course Bill is saved by the pilot, and Bill's tear, which was the pilot's tear, I guess. She puts that onto the doctor, and it begins his regeneration process.
She Rapunzels him back to life.
she kind of did.
She cries on him, and then the light comes, and he comes back to life like Rapunzel.
Right.
And you Disney nerds out there, yeah.
Right, like basically. But so then he wakes up, and all of a sudden he starts going through some of his regeneration quotes. Specifically, he does Tennant's regeneration quote, or lead up to, and then the Matt Smith. Yep. And he starts it all off with one of the things that Tom Baker says after he regenerates. It's not the first thing he says, but it's one of the first things he says. But once again, we don't get the final words for Eccleston.
Oh yeah, I was kind of sad about that. I was like, oh come on, you could have thrown
completely overlooking.
You could have thrown in "I was fantastic" or something in there. Come on.
Right. Nope. I'm pretty sure as long as Eccleston refuses to acknowledge Doctor Who refuses to acknowledge Eccleston. So
maybe it's
all the regeneration quotes from New Who that matter.
Maybe it's like a catch-22. He refuses to be a part of Doctor Who because no one's acknowledging him.
No, he was invited to the 50th. He turned it down. He had his chance.
I don't want to go into that. We all know my feelings.
So the pilot
on that, yeah.
So the pilot.
Okay,
the pilot's all powerful.
That was my question. Is the pilot shows up? Apparently, she can. It's okay. Like I get that she can travel wherever. I can understand that. But the fact she can bring Bill back to life, not be a Cyberman anymore, turn her to human. She says, "Oh, it's all atoms." Is the pilot like Bad Wolf? Can she just do whatever she wants?
I'm pretty sure it's Deus Ex Pilota.
Yeah.
So it does whatever whatever's needed for the script.
Right.
I love that line where she says, "I could even make you human if you want," and it's like that's Stephen Moffat saying, "It's okay. I didn't just kill her. Like she's fine. She can be human, but she gets to go off and have this romance and travel the stars and see everything. And maybe she comes back and maybe she doesn't. And it's like,
a lot of people.
I get.
A lot of people.
I get why they say that. Like, why she said that. Like I get why Moffat wrote that. I do, but come on, her death was so emotional. It was a gut punch that she became a Cyberman. And I mean, I know it's still a kid's show and you kind of want it to end with, oh, she's alive and everything's fine. But no, I wanted her, and I loved Bill, you know that. I wanted her to be dead because I wanted the Doctor to have to learn a lesson.
Yeah. I
wanted this to be an important thing to remind us and have him take extra care from now on with his companions. Capaldi has been so reckless, and I wanted this to be what reins him in, and that's all because I desperately want the next Doctor to be Richard Ayoade, and he would be such a soft Doctor and kind and looking out for and worried about. I felt like this would have been perfect.
Sort of a nervous Nelly kind of type.
Yeah.
Well, and see, that's a lot of people have said that Bill basically got the same ending that Clara got, and I mean, yeah, she did. And here's my take on it. I really loved this ending for Bill. I don't think, and so like if one of the companions were to get this ending, it should be Bill. I think Clara should have died. End of story. I think she should have died.
Yeah.
Because she was such an important person in the Doctor's life, and you're right, it would have taught him the lesson that he needed to hear. For Stephen Moffat to do the same thing with the companion the 2 times in a row, it was kind of a cheap trick. So it annoys me, but I really liked it for Bill. So then it just made me look back on the Clara one and go, yeah, I really didn't like that, the way that that ended. This should have been the one. Yeah, so that's my thing on it.
One of my biggest gripes about Moffat is he doesn't like endings, and I'll go into more of that in a little bit. But one of the things that I can't stand about his writing is that he doesn't know how to write characters out. He doesn't know how to write a character saying goodbye, and that's fine. I mean, it's compelling when characters, but he doesn't kill characters. Moffat completely, people think he kills people. He doesn't kill anybody.
No,
everybody lives.
Doesn't.
Amy and Rory were written out of the story and had an entire lifetime, and then died of old age. Clara never dies. Bill never dies. Moffat doesn't know how to write an ending.
River got to live on in a computer program for God knows how long,
And we said goodbye to her like 6 times. I love River, but we had so many goodbyes for River. So he doesn't know how to write a goodbye, and it's because he doesn't know how to write an ending. And I'll get more into that later here. We won't go into that now. But so I do want to ask the question. So what happens with the ship? Because I was unclear. They keep saying, well, this is the Mondasian Cybermen. No, in the 10th planet, the Mondasian Cybermen were from Mondas. Mondas was returning, not from some ship that Mondas sent out. They were on Mondas, and it was the entire population of Mondas. So how do these Cybermen fit into that?
Well, we can go ahead and go into what you wanted to say now, because this kind of relates. So what Stephen Moffat did was he decided, okay, and I kind of took me the second watch to because that was my question. I was like, wait a minute. So what happens with the ship? There's still Cybermen there. Mm-hmm. Well, what's going to happen? So on the second watch, they kind of explain what's going to happen at the end. The girls are talking to Nardal, and he says, oh, it'll take them several years to even find us, where, here on this farm. And she's like, well, then what do we do? And he's like, oh, I'll figure out something. So that's the line. Oh, Nardal will figure it out. They'll be fine.
But that's another question. The hell happens with Nardal and the people there?
Well, so that's where Stephen Moffat hasn't written the ending. He's left it up to the audience to decide. Do they just want to, Nardal figure something out and they escape and somehow those Cybermen make it back to Mondas, and then that's how the 10th planet starts. And who knows? We might get to see in the next episode. There might be some line or something about. But you're right. He didn't write the ending.
Right, so I got to remind myself, first off, there's still one more episode, the Christmas special, and just because the season's over doesn't mean we're not going to resolve all these hanging plot threads in the Christmas special. But from my point of view, as the audience, first off, don't ever leave it up to me. The first rule of storytelling is don't leave it up to your audience to figure out what happened. Tell them, right? Because that's the story. This is not the Mondasian Cybermen. This is concurrent to the Mondasian Cybermen. On Mondas, they're upgrading like this because they're brilliant minds to figure this out. Meanwhile, on this ship that was sent out from Mondas in search of who knows what, they're doing this as well because they were caught in the black hole and they've had generations now to do this. But the way it's left open, A, it seemed like the ship was never going to get out. B, Nardal and all those people will either die or become Cybermen. And C, even if the ship escapes, it's not going to go back to Mondas. It was going out into the universe to find other stuff. Maybe this is the ship that goes to Telos. These are the Telosian Cybermen. But nothing about this story leads me to believe that these would have become the Mondasian Cybermen we see in the 10th planet. They're from Mondas, therefore they are Mondasian Cybermen, just not from the ones from the 10th planet. At least as far as I can see. This is because Moffat doesn't write an ending.
Well, yeah, because he didn't tell you, like, these are the ones that go back to they end up back on the planet, and then the planet moves, towards Earth, and that's what it is. I don't know. I think that it's not just Stephen Moffat who does this. Like, a lot of people will leave something up to the audience's imaginations, and they can decide what happens. I mean, with Clara, it's like we know that she's gonna die eventually, and she's in between a heartbeat or whatever, but that she gets to go on some adventures, I guess, and then she has to go back to Gallifrey. So we're just led to sort of think by ourselves.
But that's
and say,
Moffat.
Well, okay, maybe she goes on 10 adventures and then she goes back to Gallifrey because the Time Lords catch her and say, "Hey, you need to come back," and then she faces the Raven.
Right, but again, that's Moffat.
Right. No, I know that.
I would buy the argument if you said, well, in Russell T Davies' era, the 10th Doctor did this thing and it was completely left up to the audience to figure it out. But Russell T Davies didn't do that. He literally gave us, and the next day, every episode. All the way to the end.
Well, and I think that's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think some audiences like that and some don't. And I mean, obviously you don't. Right. I don't really hate it, but it doesn't really bother me that much.
Well,
I can go, okay, I wish you would have told me something else, but okay, it was still good. I like it.
And I'm not trying to denigrate the episode. The episode's great. Absolutely. It's just Moffat has this unbelievable inability to finish anything. He leaves plot threads lying all over the place, and he just assumes that people will be fine with it, I'll just move on. I disagree with that style of storytelling, and for that reason, he will not be missed. I'm very glad to be moving on to the Chibs, who knows how to write a story that has a beginning, middle, and end. You know, like Broadchurch or Torchwood. I'm glad to be going to a guy that's going to actually finish a story. So anyway, that was my complaint about it, and I still think there's a huge question mark as to what happens. So again, we still have another episode.
You're right, happens. And it's a valid complaint, and I didn't really like the way it ended either. I didn't like that it was just no, Nardal will figure it out. It wasn't really clear what the Doctor's plan was. It was like, he's just going to blow up as many Cybermen as possible, but that didn't really solve the problem. It just stopped that particular battle. So that bugged me as well.
And moving on to characters, speaking of Moffat, he can't help making women into ageless goddesses. He really can't. That is just his shtick. It's what he does.
Yeah.
We got Clara, we got Bill, both of whom will never die and get to travel the universe. They're ageless goddesses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and traveling with a female companion.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked on this already a little bit, but you're right. I mean, it's the same thing, and I feel like even with River, she gets to live not forever, but for a really long time in a computer program.
River, right? Well, and then that line from the Doctor, "You should have faded by now," as if to say, what are you still doing here? You should have died. I didn't save you forever. I just saved you until you faded. And that's Moffat. I'll save them until they fade.
Well, and that's kind of the Doctor is an ageless god, basically, is what he is, and he every season or so we hear his age. I'm 2,000, and then it's going to be I'm 3,000 or whatever the Chibs decides to do. But but a lot of his companions have ended up sort of being the Doctor. I mean, if you look at how Amy ended up, she didn't become the Doctor sort of physically, in the way she lived her life, but sort of her personality and those last 5 episodes of how she handled herself with the Doctor. She was right there on par with him, but she chose to stay because she had Rory. That was a whole different thing.
Right.
Right. But so all of Moffat's companions, it's like they become the Doctor. Kind of what happens.
Well, and that's Moffat's thing. Yeah. Davies' thing was, you're affected by the Doctor, you're changed by the Doctor. Moffat's thing is you become the Doctor, and
it's a little more on the nose with Moffat. With Russell T Davies, they kind of became the Doctor. Well, not Donna, but Well, actually, no, she did literally almost, but she went
Literally
back to
became
being
the
normal.
doctor.
But, Martha Rose probably, was working on Pete's World, saving it from aliens and stuff with the Dr. Clone, and Martha worked for Torchwood for a while. So, I mean, they did doctor-y things, but they didn't go traveling through time and space almost as 2/3 of Moffat's companions have.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we have Bill.
Mhm.
And one of the things I loved about Bill, especially from this episode, but we see the growth, that even when she becomes a Cyberman, she's still fighting to be human, and she's still fighting for the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that was great. Because it would have really stunk to just have Bill is a Cyberman and game over. That's it.
Right. No,
it was really
it's
nice to have
her.
her.
Yeah.
Still be a force in it, even though she was a Cyberman. And I like the
She was
explanation.
conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I like the explanation the Doctor gives. All that time with the monks helped you hold on to yourself, and so she was special. She had a special reason for not converting completely, and she's
Right.
That's what made her Bill.
Exactly. And like Bill, even the Doctor fights. Even when he couldn't. Even when he shouldn't.
Yep.
The Doctor knows he's going to lose. But he was fighting anyway.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
It is really beautiful. And I'm really loving what I like what Moffat's doing with the Doctor, with Capaldi in particular. With Tennant and Matt Smith. Yeah, Matt Smith was he was pretty mysterious, but it was like, oh, we know who he is. He's a fun-loving guy. He saves the day. And with Capaldi, even though it was a little too much at first and we didn't really like it, I've come to see that the idea of the Doctor, he's more mysterious now. What kind of man is he? That's sort of, am I a good man or a bad man? That was in season 8, and then series 9, it was sort of the thing about the hybrid. He was like, what could I, what am I? What can I become? If I'm not, if I don't watch myself. And then, in this one, he sort of lays it all out in that beautiful speech. That's probably my favorite Capaldi speech. I like it better than the war one. I honestly do. This one was really, really great. Where he says, this is what I stand for, and this is why I'm doing what I do. And
because it's right.
Yeah, it was because it's right, and it's kind. And it was just a very beautiful speech, and very, very Doctor Who. I mean, that's who he is. That's who I want the character to be. And that's it.
And then there's Nardole. He's just doing the best he can. No, he's doing the best he can, and apparently falling in love.
Oh, maybe.
So clearly, we find out for certain here. He says it. He's not human.
Right.
He's toyed with us all season about it.
Mm-hmm.
But here he says, I'm not human. And so he's an android. He's some sort of robot. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's alive. And he's smart.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows what he's doing. And I don't feel like he's an android as much as he's got a human heart in there. Not literally, but...
Oh, maybe. He's got
maybe.
lungs.
Yeah, what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, I loved his goodbye. I thought it was very well done. I didn't have any qualms about it. It took me a minute to figure out, what the Doctor meant at the end right there, what he said to him, but it's the whole idea of the Doctor, who's stronger, the Doctor can't stand losing Nardole. Or Nardole can't stand losing the Doctor as much as the Doctor would stand losing Nardole. That kind of thing. So... Yeah, that was a really touching moment, and a good arc on Nardole. He knows that it's like, the Doctor brought him back, and so it's like, okay, what's Nardole's purpose in life? What's his character development? And it's just, he's just
right.
He realizes that he can be the best helper he can be, and he can. I don't know. I guess we'll never know what happened to him exactly. Moffat didn't write the end, but I'll miss Nardole. He was fun.
So now we're kind of moving on to look at the seasonal arc, the season arc that we had, which is all about Missy. It's all about the reformation of Missy from evil to good. That's really what it is. And in this episode, she just can't decide if she's going to be with the Doctor or if she's going to be with herself.
Well, and I it was interesting that she was kind of just almost instantly back to her old evil ways. And then, she's like, oh, I'm on your side the whole time, you muffin, or whatever she called him. You silly sod, or I don't remember what she called him. Something very, very British. But she she sort of... I liked to think, and this was my theory, that because the Master was there, she wasn't just pretending, but because he was there, her mind was kind of connected with his a little bit, and she kind of couldn't help herself. She was literally fighting with her own mind because he was there. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely. And she got caught up in the madness, even though she had reformed herself. She was caught up in the madness and couldn't help herself. But then at the final hour, she's able to make a move that helps the Doctor, and she can say, no, I got this. We're okay. So maybe that is for her. Maybe that for the Master. Maybe that is being reformed.
Well, and this was her redemption story. It would have been. She decided, she made the choice, I'm going to stand with the Doctor. I'm going to do what's right and what's kind and all that stuff the Doctor said. But unfortunately, it was too late. She didn't get a chance to, because she stabbed herself in the back. And that's the saddest part about all of this, is that the Doctor will never know. The Doctor will never know that she changed her mind, because all he thinks is that she's hopeless. She's a lost cause because he denied him. So that was the saddest part.
Poor Doctor. Poor Missy. The two could have been the best of friends again. They really could have.
They really could have. Well, and that's one thing I've seen a lot just in writing, as far like reading reviews and stuff, and is people are talking a lot about how Missy and the Doctor's relationship was a lot more like Pertwee and Delgado's relationship as the Master, where they still enjoyed each other, but there was that rivalry there, but they didn't hate each other. It was like, he's a brilliant mind. The Doctor recognized the Master's brilliance, and whereas Tennant, they did a little bit too, but it was mostly the Doctor or the Master was, I'm evil, I'm evil, I'm evil.
Yeah. the moments where John Sims' Master was truly sparkled, I believed, were in those moments where he would look to the Doctor and say something, and it was as if he was asking for the Doctor's permission, asking for the Doctor's okay, to say to him, I understand what you're doing, I get it. There'd be those moments where he'd be talking about the beating in his head, and he'd say why, it's that look like, why is this happening to me, what's going on? And I really feel like those were John Sims' greatest moments, or for me at least. But Missy had so many more of them, because her Master was all about again, you're right, being the friend again. And even though they're fighting, even though she's trying to do this stuff, I think we talked about this last time, but she becomes less and less of a threat every season, and every time we see her. From the very beginning of season 8, she's mysterious, and then certainly in charge of something that's very dark and gruesome. But then you get to the end of that episode, of season 8's final episode, and she's, she built an army and she gives it to the Doctor. No, it's you. It's all you. You go. Happy birthday, Doctor. You go and save the universe, and I'll be by your side. And
that's really interesting.
And you kind of think about it. She's she's crazy. Maybe she's going to betray him out there and take over the army or whatever. But that she's such a threat all the way up until that moment that she gives him the power, and he can do whatever he wants with it. And then when you see her in season 2, she's threatening, certainly, but it's all because she needs Clara to get to the Doctor so she can find the Doctor. And she does threatening stuff. She puts Clara in a bizarre, in a Dalek, and hopes the Doctor will kill her. but she's not. It's not a threat to everybody. It's just a threat to Clara, and she's still going after the Doctor. Then you see her in this season, and she's reformed. She's not a threat. So I feel like she became less and less of a threat. She's not a great villain because of that. Because she's truly reformed by the end. She's changing, and so that makes her a terrible villain, but a very compelling character.
She's a great master. I mean, that's
yes.
As that character, and you bring up a good point. That end of that first episode of her, or of the first season of hers, she's like, I want to be your friend again. And I feel like that's something that, at least in New Who, the Master, and maybe in Pertwee's era, the Master was always like, come on, you and I, we could do great things. I feel like a lot of times in New Who, that was more on the Doctor's side. The Doctor would say that to John Sim a lot, like, come on, remember when we were kids, and remember this and that. And the Master's like, no, forget all that, I'm evil. And then this time around, though, Missy is the one to say, no, let's be friends again. I want to be your friend. Right. So for the Master to initiate that this time is, I think, more compelling instead of just being evil. Which I had forgotten how much of a little bastard the John Sims Master was. He was...
Yeah.
he was a jerk.
He was, though.
Just he was all about snarky and yeah.
He was all about being right and the Doctor being wrong.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. It was great.
So then we got a lot going on, but of course the final piece of the seasonal arc, I think, is the season arc, because we knew it was coming, but I feel like it was, from the very beginning it was building, was that the Doctor is now fighting regeneration. He refuses to go, which a part of that I feel like is fed into from the pilot. When we start talking about, he chose to stay because of the oath, he refused to leave the planet, he took up a teaching position. It's all about reducing the level of danger. And now that we kept increasing, obviously, and then now we got to the end, and we've got this, he's going to die, he has to regenerate, and he's like, no. And I still think that just because he took the oath doesn't mean that's the reason he chose to stay on Earth. I think he got to a point where he realized, I can do much more if I just, if I stop doing the craziness and the random adventures and stuff. I think really he doesn't want to go because he doesn't want to change, but I think we've seen that all season.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. I think that this Doctor, and what we'll see in the Christmas special, if our theories are correct, this Doctor will need some convincing to regenerate. With David Tennant, it was he was sort of forced to do it, and he wasn't happy about it, but he knew he had to do it, and he was going to do it. Matt Smith, he was like, he got to last almost as long as he wanted.
He accepted it.
And he said, it's time. He was sad about it, but he knew it was time. Capaldi he's not going out like that. He doesn't want to change, and it's foolish for him to try to hold back the regeneration. It's going to come, but he's so stubborn, he's going to hold on to this himself as long as possible. And it really goes to show that regeneration has become something so much more in the new show than it was in the old show. In the old show, he was like, yeah, I'll be a little bit different, but it's just something we Time Lords do. And in the new show, it's more of like a little death to him. He's losing who he is. He's going to be somebody else. And even though he's the same person. The same... Yeah.
Right.
And that's...
Yeah, so... I agree. And this for me goes all the way back to Tennant talking to Wilf. Talking to Wilfred Mott. And talking about regeneration. Like you said, it's like you die and some other man walks away with your body but a new face. And Tennant did not want to go. He was terrified of death. He was terrified of regeneration. Eccleston just kind of accepts it, and Matt Smith accepts it, right? That's his time. He's ready to go. He thought he was going to die anyway, so that he gets to go on is great. But Capaldi, this is a great move for the Doctor, because this is a good reminder that just because we enjoy regeneration and we enjoy as fans watching the next exciting, thrilling Doctor, it's the same person, and the Doctor's terrified of it.
Yeah.
Let me say, the production of this episode, looking at that regeneration stuff, him refusing to go, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful to watch that energy starting, and then just him. It really does feel like he's holding it back.
Yeah.
But the whole episode, the production was great.
Oh yeah, definitely, I agree. The set it was just the farm and the field, but they really did a good job with all the Cybermen, and I feel like the music was really great in this episode. It was very emotional, and
it was so emotional.
And I really like what they did with Bill. I like that Bill wasn't just a Cyberman talking the whole time. We sort of had this from her perspective in her mind, so that we got to see her for the rest of the episode, and she got to act. Pearl Mackie got to act and not just be a Cyberman. She got to do all that emotional stuff that we got to see. So that was a kind of a neat idea, and it worked really well. And when they seamlessly would go back and forth, that was good.
Right. Well, and there was that moment where her shadow is cast on the barn wall.
Oh yeah.
And it's the shadow of a Cyberman, but it's her, and you're just like, it's a great trick.
That was a really good bit.
I loved that. Wait, you remember from the 10th Planet, the silliness sort of that Cyberman design, they're the kind of clunky, slow-moving, they got the bizarre, giant, contraption on them. But you and I were laughing hysterically about the fact they would just open the mouth, because there's a voice box in there.
Yeah.
They just have to open the mouth so the sound can come out. So it kind of looks like they're trying to talk, but it's... And then they've got that voice that this is what's going to happen. And but they just open the mouth and the sound comes out. I thought that was beautiful. They did that again.
Well, and that voice made me laugh, because whenever it would be from when we were seeing Pearl Mackie, when we were seeing Bill, and she would say something to the Doctor, I would kind of then think back in my mind, like, how would that sound coming out of the Cyberman's mouth? Like all those really emotional moments near the end. And it was just... Probably didn't quite have the same effect if it was the other way around.
Right.
It was used sparingly and for a good reason.
And the Cybermen are innately silly as well.
Yeah.
They always have been. But those early... guys, if you haven't gone back and seen the 10th Planet, 100% go do it. It is... one of the best early stories of Doctor Who. Certainly one of my favorite Hartnell, though there are far better Hartnell episodes. This is such a good story because the Cybermen really shine. And totally worth seeing. Yeah. And we saw the classic dematerialization circuit. The one that literally Pertwee would hold up to the camera and look at it. And that was what he was trying to install in his TARDIS.
With like a jewel thing in his eye. He'd like look at it.
Yep.
He was always in the lab.
So what are some of your favorite moments or quotes from this episode there, Taylor?
Oh, man. The speech, for sure. It was one of the best moments. Just of the whole episode. I really liked... Okay, the bit that made me laugh was when it cut to the Masters and John Sim was putting on eyeliner. I thought that... because he's obviously been wearing eyeliner this whole time, but we don't get to see the application of the eyeliner. He's obviously been putting it on. So... To actually see him putting it on and to sort of see that vulnerable moment was hilarious.
That's a good moment.
Yeah.
I really liked the quote that they gave, and this is, maybe this is a hint. Maybe this is Moffat, right? Although I don't think they cast anyone by then, but they said, "Is the future going to be all girls? So we can only hope."
Yeah, that was a good one.
I know we've talked about this a little bit and we've danced around it because we do, but I don't think it will be a girl. Not that it couldn't be, not that it shouldn't be. I just don't think it will. I really do. I think we're going to see
next. You mean the next one?
The next Doctor.
Yeah,
the next Doctor. I think we're going to see someone who's African American for the first time. So not just a white British guy, but a black British guy. I do. I don't. I mean, I what do I know? I don't know. But I'm just. If I had to go with a gut feeling, I'd say it'll be another dude, just not necessarily white. And that's fine. Whoever they pick is fine. They're not going to pick someone who's terrible at the part. This is they're casting because they love the show. So whoever it is going to be the perfect fit. I believe that. I truly do.
Yeah.
So if it is a girl, great. If it's not, that's fine too. There's that gut instinct in me that says I don't think that's who Chris Chibnall would pick. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, and see, I would agree with you. I don't think he would pick that for his first Doctor. I think he would want to pick something maybe a little risky, but somewhat safe, not too big of a risk.
Right,
he'll want to do something different, but not too different. It could backfire, or it could be a huge risk that pays off. Again, we still don't know at this point, so we'll see.
Right. So, but yeah, you have to remember, ratings have been in the decline. The show has not done well, has not performed well season to season since Capaldi took over. Which, we've belabored the point on, we're not going to go into again. You guys, if you don't already know, of course we love Capaldi, hate other factors. But ratings have gone down significantly, and the BBC's looking to bring in a new showrunner to bring those ratings up. Now, does that mean that ratings wouldn't be up if it was a girl? No, of course not. Of course they'd be up. They'd be great. But the BBC is not going to risk losing a certain demographic that they count on, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it's not fair, it's not nice, it's not kind, but it's true. And I think you're right. I think we're gonna. But again, that's me saying I think we're gonna see someone who's not the traditional look. I sincerely hope so. I don't. It doesn't matter if it isn't really. It's just a character on a show. But I anyone they pick is gonna be fine. So yeah. I am excited to see who they pick. I am excited to see. I'm by now that person is cast. Mm-hmm. By now that person exists and is at the BBC and is filming. That is happening. So. Hopefully, we will get some indication of this in the coming weeks, or even the coming month. So what other favorite moments have you got there, Taylor?
Well, I think one of the funniest lines for me was when the Doctor said something about to John Sim about his round face, and he's like, and there's a pause, and then he goes round, and Missy goes a little bit. And he's like, shut up! It's just such a... You always get that bickering with the Doctors, and it's nice to have that bickering with the Masters a little bit, too. They get to fight with each other.
That's nice. Yeah, I like that, too.
And then, of course, the whole line where he says it at first, and then you hear it again at the end. He's like, I'm the Doctor, the original, you might say.
Right.
Such a great line. At the end, which we could save all that for because there's no promo.
Yeah,
we can talk about that in the last part.
Well, I know we'll talk about it now. That's fine. That line he delivers, it's two different Doctor lines put together. I'm the Doctor. The definite article, you might say, is from Tom Baker, but then the original, you might say, was from Richard Herndell, who played Hartnell's Doctor in the Five Doctors. The 25th anniversary. He said when they ask him who are you, they say who are you? He says I'm the Doctor, the original. So those two lines kind of smashed together.
So
I can't do Richard Herndell doing William Hartnell, but that's Matt Whitecamp doing Richard Herndell doing Richard Hartnell.
If you see you knew that he said that line. I'm sure anybody else who knew that that was a Herndl line, that would be a big hint if no one had known all the stuff they've been talking about of all the rumors.
Right.
They'd be like, it would be a hint, sort of as a foreshadowing to come, of what came at the end. So.
Right. Yes. So it's really neat. No, I love when they do that though. I love when they do callbacks because it's a 52-year-old show. You have so much material to work with. You should always be making callbacks. There's no reason not to.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, this whole episode was filled with quotes and moments, just things that were really great. So,
too numerous to name.
Too numerous to name. Taylor, what are your final thoughts on the episode?
Well, I feel like Moffat outdid himself with this episode. This is one of his best finales. The finales are always good. I mean, we have qualms with them because we're us and we nitpick, and we have qualms with Stephen Moffat at times, but I feel like his finales are always really emotional, really great. So I feel like this was an amazing end to this season, which has been amazing in itself. Really just a huge step up from Series 8 and Series 9. And so this one, just the cherry on top, this episode was. It was so heartbreaking at the end, and then yet hopeful at the end of what's to come. And I can't wait for the Christmas special, and this was definitely one of those that was at the end of an era, the Moffat era. And so I loved it a lot.
Yeah, I share your sentiment on that. I will say this. I have a difficult time with Moffat in some of the ways he writes. I detest his inability to go back and kind of peer edit his own work and say, well, does this make sense? And are there big plot holes? And can I at least write a piece of dialogue that fixes things? I know hindsight's 2020, and I know looking at any story from the outside in, I'm going to be able to pick it apart and say, you should have done this, this, and this. That's fine. And I also happen to know how difficult it is to write a good script, and also at the end of it look back on it and go, wow, there were a bunch of plot holes. Season 2 of Voices from the Vortex, perfect example. But I love it. So I'm not going to say that this episode was bad. This entire season was great. This entire season was exactly the breath of fresh air Capaldi's Doctor needed. Sucks that we're not going to get another season or two like this, even under Chibs. They could have given us another season, I think would have been fine. I think this season probably brought the ratings back up, so I don't know what. I absolutely love this episode. Everything about it worked for me, except for the glaring plot holes. Everything about it was great. And, no, I'm really excited. I'm really excited because you don't get Doctor Who regenerating all that often, and when you do, you don't get him saying no. So this is a good twist, and obviously the next episode is a multi-Doctor episode. Moffat's gonna go out with a second multi-Doctor episode under his belt. Come on, that's awesome. So, absolutely brilliant. Definitely. Great episode.
Calculating. Voices from the Vortex gives The Doctor falls 10 out of 10.
Well, at this point, it would be time for oh my god, that promo. But there's no promo.
Other than Doctor Who will return.
Yes, and we've talked about this on the phone a lot, and it's kind of obvious. But for those who don't know that it's obvious, and we've been telling you, go watch the 10th Planet. This is why you need to go watch the 10th Planet, because in the 10th Planet and it was mostly because of William Hartnell's health at the time. There's a few episodes where the Doctor just disappears.
Yeah.
And we don't know where he went, what happened to him. And it seems to me that we are going to get to see what happened there.
Once again, Moffat writing in continuity but it's reverse continuity.
That's right. Yeah, he's answering questions that no one thought to answer.
No one thought to ask because they weren't questions.
No. Yeah.
Well done, Moffat.
Yeah, well done. And it'll be really interesting to see those two together. Even though it's not really William Hartnell, but David Bradley does such a great job as the first Doctor, and it'll be neat to see that dynamic because that's something that we never thought we'd be able to see. Those actors have died. There's really no reason why you would ever bring them back, but they have found a way to do it that I think will work really well. And it's going to be this neat little story where it seems like they're going to have to convince each other to regenerate. The first Doctor for the first time, and then Capaldi, for the last time. Well, not the last time, but right. Capaldi for, the 13th time.
Someone actually. I was watching one of those. Like behind the scenes with Stephen Moffat, and I don't know if it was there that they mentioned it, or if maybe this was in an article. But someone was talking, and I think I'm almost positive it was Moffat, was talking about we don't know how many regenerations he was given. We assume they gave him a whole new set because that's what's been said before. Mm-hmm. That's what was offered to the Master, and he even said, "Ooh, a whole new regeneration cycle." When he was, this is just the face is just the reset. Mm-hmm. He said that right before he regenerated into Capaldi. Yeah. So we're assuming he's got 12, 13 more lives, right? Or 12 now, more lives. But I guess at the end of the day, we don't know. And there's always something to be said about if it's a question up in the air, Capaldi doesn't know, the Doctor doesn't know how many more lives he's got. And that's scary on its own. So this next episode, I really think we'll dive into that. I'm really hoping that there is that question. Maybe there's not. But that is what Rassilon said to him. How many? He asked the Doctor, last season, how many regenerations did we give you? I could do this all day. Now, maybe that's rhetorical, right? Maybe he's just saying, well, so what did we do for you? Oh, yeah, we gave you regeneration cycle.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just, pontificating. But I would really love a line where the Doctor says, whether the younger Doctor says, so, which Doctor are you? He says, well, I'm the 13th. This is, or I'm the beyond that, right? I'm the 14th. And he says, the other Doctor says, well, how is that possible? And he says, well, I was given more. He said, and a whole other cycle. Well, I don't know. I'd love to hear that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Because it gives it a sense of mystery. If we know for certain he's got 12 more lives, that's kind of, okay, but you always know.
Yeah.
But if every regeneration could be his last, every time, so everything he does now is actually, the stakes are higher. So I am really excited to see this next episode, especially because of, like you said, David Bradley being in it. And I just wanted to recommend real quick to everyone out there, if you haven't watched Classic Who, that you're listening to us, all 8 of you, do go back and watch The 10th Planet. Also go back and watch Hartnell's The Dalek Invasion of Earth from his 2nd season. It is my favorite Hartnell story, period.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a really good one.
And it really is. It's got the 3 original companions of Ian, Barbara, and Susan. It is the 2nd Dalek story, so it's the return of the Daleks, and they know of him. And it's Earth conquered. It is exactly what they talk about when they say the Dalek camps, when they talk about the future. Hartnell does such a good job. He was so present and aware during that filming. And then you'll watch The 10th Planet, and you'll see, you're right, he was so sick. There was an entire episode where he's just not there. They assume he's asleep in his cell. But to build mystery, they go in to look, and they're like, oh, he's not here. And then they come back later, and oh, he's back. So I'm actually very excited to see that fit into that piece of continuity.
Me too. That's going to be really great.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us for Doctor Who Series 10 and our reviews.
Yeah, this is
thanks
the
for
last
sticking it out
one
this
until
long.
until Christmas.
Until Christmas.
Yeah.
And then who knows? Who knows when season 11 will come out? Could be the fall. I want to do 2 quick plugs here, as Taylor would agree.
Yep.
First off, if you're listening to this week, the week that it came out, next week we will have Voices from the Vortex, The Lost Season. Now, you know we have these narrative, we have stories about The Bachelor and the Associate, 2 Time Lords traveling through space and time. This is the first 14 episodes, which do not exist as a story. Originally, they were just us talking. These were the episodes lost to YouTube, but we have found them.
So this is not. We had season 1 kind of, and then last year we had series 2, season 2. This is not season 3. This is
right.
This is a sort of a prequel, so it should be a lot of fun. They're really good. They're shorter than your normal episodes. They're a little shorter,
right.
But we're doing something a little special this time.
Yeah, and we're going to steer clear of the word prequel because George Lucas has tainted it. But no, these are the first 14 episodes. Thank you. These
I can't believe you cut
continuity.
that Jar Jar character we had.
I'm dead serious. Replace everything Jar Jar says. Just wipe out the audio, and instead have Paul Rudd read the words without the accent. It would be the best thing. It literally makes the movie it makes it better. Perfect. So, Paul Rudd is an American treasure. No, Voices from the Vortex, The Lost Season. It's the first 14 episodes. They're short. They're like 6-7 minutes an episode, and we're going to launch all 14 of them at once. So you're going to have the whole first 14 at once, one story, straight through. And then when you're done with that,
you can binge it.
Move on.
All the kids are binging these
you
days.
Binge it, yeah. When you're done with it, you can move on to episode 15, which is the true first episode, the beginning of our season 1. So,
beginning of our scripted stories that we decided to start writing.
Right, and they were very short at first. They were just cold opens, or they were little bits. But by episode 19, they had turned into full episodes. So.
Yep.
And there's reviews. Once you hit episode 15, there's reviews of Classic Who. So, guys, if you haven't listened to it, definitely do. I want to make sure I plug that. Here's the other thing I want to plug. We do a lot of stuff. So, just last minute here. We are launching later this year a brand new radio serial on YouTube called Ace Starfield, Spaceman of Tomorrow. It is a throwback to the era of Flash Gordon radio serials of the 1930s. It is hilarious and epic.
Yes.
Fun. And seriously, if you like the stuff we do with Voices from the Vortex, this is like 10 times better.
Right.
So
and
you should.
And this is something that is not BBC's intellectual property. So So, we're going to start setting up, maybe a Patreon account or something like that. So if you do want to, support us in some way, that's the way that you can support us. So go to Facebook and find, the Ace Starfield Facebook page. Give it a like, give it a share, tell your friends if you do enjoy our kind of stuff. And it should be coming out later this year. Yeah.
So we want to thank you again for listening to us, for the reviews. We love doing this. This is our privilege to be able to do this on our free time and give it to you guys. Sometimes we have to do these reviews 2 or 3 times because of technical issues or because of the changes.
That's happened maybe a handful of times. Just a handful.
Just a few. But no, guys, thank you again. Hopefully, all willing, you're going to have a Christmas special review from us, and then you should hear from us again in season 11. So we want to thank you for joining us. Make sure to go to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, like the video, share the video, subscribe to our pages, and most importantly, if you have any questions or comments for us, send it to voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. And with that, into the Vortex, my friends.
To the Vortex, buddy old pal.
This has been another Voices from the Vortex review for Series 10, starring Matthew Whitecamp as Matt the Time Lord, Taylor Davidson as Taylor the Time Lord, and Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS. All views expressed are the opinions of the two dudes from Gallifrey, and as such should be taken extremely seriously. Follow Voices from the Vortex on all social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Subscribe to us on iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the podcast, please email us at voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. Doctor Who and all related materials are copyright BBC, and no infringement of copyright is intended. It's heavily implied, but never intended. All material is fan fiction of a satirical nature. Please, Mr. Moffat, don't sue us. We know you have a sense of humor. See you next time in the Vortex!
Temporal flight engaged. Returning to the Vortex. End of transmission.
To the Vortex!